Yes. Start?
Yeah.
Oh.
You will admit no new members joining.
Okay. So the virtual Namaste members, speakers, and all our guests, a very good evening to all of you. I am CA Sharmila, Vice Chairperson of Bahrain Chapter of ICAI. On behalf of Bahrain Chapter of ICAI, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to this today's event. I am your MC for today. I'll be taking you through the session. Just a few housekeeping rules before we get started. So please mute your mics during the session if you're not the speakers. If you have any questions during the presentation, kindly type it in the chat box and I shall take them at the end of the session depending on the availability of the time. Also, as you're all aware, we will have a quiz session at the end, the Kahoot. So who don't have Kahoot on their mobiles can kindly install that. So thank you everybody for joining. So let's begin. And for that, I'll first call upon our chairperson, CA Santosh Varghese, to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, Santosh.
Thank you very much, CA Sharmila. Dear members, good evening. Also invited guests, we have extended our invitation to Bahrain India Society members. Welcome. Also Bahrain Economic Society, we have extended our invitation. The members of Bahrain Economic Society also, we extend a hearty welcome. Also our speaker, good morning, sir, from very early morning for you. And happy to see you all you here. Very nice. And it's our pleasure to host you here today. And also today, normal, other than conventional subject, it's a very different subject. And we all, some point in time, buy product based on brand and branding. And we don't know what is secret behind the branding and how does it's get built up. And we are waiting for your session to get the details of the secrets of branding. I would like to, since it is our first meeting on technically, other way around also, I would like to briefly introduce the programs which we ourselves conducted during the year. Also, what are the plans for the coming months, coming days or so. And we had a happy launching of the new executive committee on 1st August. And that's a video release. We had the one of the most viewed video of BCICAI. It was very well appreciated by the members. Thank you very much for that. And also 2nd of August, we have launched our new theme for the year of Facebook frame. It's also well received by the members. And 13th, we have our executive committee inauguration session. And we are very fortunate to have Ambassador of India to the Kingdom of Bahrain, His Excellency Piyush Srivastava-ji, part of the guest. And also that the event is joined by ICA President as well as Vice President, and followed by a technical session, Citizens' Social Responsibility. The speaker was none other than Mr. Kochausep Chetilapalli, who is a billionaire who donated his own kidney to an unknown labor. What an example, and he set for all of us. And that's the program. Now this is another different program we are bringing. Yesterday we had another 2 successful events. One is marking the 75th anniversary celebration of India's independence. And we had a celebration and members participated and with a lot of vigor and enthusiasm. We are very happy, and we will be conducting more such programs in the future. Once this program is over, we are going to have many more such events. The next event most probably will be on 4th, next Saturday, on some technology related events, and maybe AGM also following that event. Thank you very much for the wonderful participation. Your support is the motivation, appreciation for all of us. I am giving the control back to CA Sharmila to take the proceeding further in the evening.
Yeah, thank you, CA Santosh, for that words and for providing all of us as well as members on all those updates. Thanks a lot. So, going to our technical session now. So, have you ever wondered that why some of the brands are more successful than the other brands? Brands like Amazon, Netflix, PayPal, Apple, Ford, I can go on and on and on. But what separates these successful brands from others? What distinguishes a great brand from just any other brand? If we pause for a while and if we see, we'll see that a brand is only as good as what people's brain make of it. As Jeff Bezos, the CEO and the founder of Amazon says, brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. It's not what you tell your customers. It is what customers tells each other. As rightly said, products are made in the factory, but brands, they are made in the minds of the people. So it's all about people's mind. It's all about people's perception and what people think. And that's what the successful brand basically does. They secretly go in in people's mind and to tell us all these secrets and to take us on that rollicking ride through some real life examples and some stories of the brand as timeless as DBS, MasterCard, and illustrate his new brand building frameworks in practical and easy to understand manner. We have among us a seasoned specialist and MD of a Chicago based consulting firm, Cerenti Marketing Group, Mr. Sandeep Dayal. Mr. Sandeep, he's a bachelor in engineering from Birla Institute of Technology and Science in Pilani, India, and MBA from Yale School of Management in New Haven, USA. He is regarded as one of the leading minds in marketing strategy and has co-authored articles in marketing management, McKinsey Quarterly, and strategy and business, and has worked with many of the world's top companies to build some of the greatest and best known brands. He is also the author of the latest bestseller, Right Between the Ears: How to Use the Brain Science to Build the Epic Brands. So, now, without much further ado, I would hand over the control to Mr. Sandeep Dayal so that he can take us on that ride. So, over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. I am delighted to be here, and um, and I'm genuinely impressed with the number of people that have showed up on this. It's heartening to see how strong the community of Indians and the accounting profession is in Bahrain. That's kind of a new information for me, so I'm truly impressed with that. So, maybe we can start with a little bit, and I have some slides which I will share. I'd like to keep the sessions informal, so we can do as many slides as you want and as few slides as you want and what have you. But it just gives you some sense of what has been happening in the branding world. Shall I just then? Can you guys hear me fine? By the way.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So, Sharmila, shall I just go and show some slides and then we can take
sure. You have the sharing rights, right? You can.
Yes, please. I do. So I will just make a switch here. And hopefully you can all see that my screen is there, right?
Yes.
Yes, we are able to see.
Super. So I've recently put out a book which is called Right Between the Years, and this is about using brain sciences to build epic brands. And we will talk about what all of that means and why branding is different. So by the way, the concepts that I'm going to be presenting here are very new in marketing itself. And the way that branding has been done in the past has evolved, and this is the new way of thinking about brands. By the way, here's what the book looks like. You can see on this slide. And this is very interesting. These days, there's a new phenomena whereby relatively young people who are on Instagram, when your book comes out, they take pictures of the book, and they post their reviews and post a picture of the book. So these all of these pictures that you're looking at of the book haven't actually been taken by me or the publisher. They've been taken by these youth who are on Instagram, and they all have 10,000 followers each. So this is the way they sort of get their message out, and they do their reviews and talk about the books that they like. So it was kind of interesting that they took so much time to actually create these wonderful pictures. So let's get to the topic of right between the ears. So what happens is that sometimes if you talk to psychologists, they like to point out that everything about sex happens not where you might think, but between your ears. And I like to say that the where and how of everything about branding too happens right between your ears. Now, this is the idea that, you know, everything that we process through our senses, everything that we process through all our perceptions, ultimately, you know, where does it go? It goes to our brain, and our brain processes all that information. So it is true for branding, but it is true for everything else also, that our perception of reality is entirely determined by what our brain makes of it. And there is a saying, you know, you say beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, but it's not just beauty, it's everything that is in the eyes of the beholder, so to speak. So what are the essential principles here? So one is that brand is our perception of the full being of a product, almost like a soul of the product. So when you look at any kind of product that's out there, our brain knows from experience that everything that we see or perceive about anything is not the whole story. You know, just like when you meet a person, you can see how they look, you can see how they, you know, how they smell or whatever. You can see all of those things, but that doesn't mean you know the whole person. And that is true. So what our brain does is, for everything that it perceives, any object that it perceives, it attaches a shadow to it, or you can call it the soul, which is kind of the additional information that the brain makes around that product. So everything is the product itself plus a soul. Now, what the brand does is that perception that we're talking about that exists in the brain, what is that? So, you know, you ask the question, well, what's in my brain? What's in everybody's brain? Well, there are only two things that are in your brain. So one is what I call sensations of your past experiences. Right? So you have all the experiences that you've gone through in your life, and some memory of those sensations is in your brain. It's over your lifetime. Now, I call it sensations because it's not an exact memory, by the way. It's not an exact recording as you might think about it. So it's just ideas about what has happened to you in the past, what you've learned from them. Those sort of sensations are there, but they're not exact memories. Well, what else is in the brain? So memories are there. What else is in your brain? The second thing that's in your brain is your fantasies, you know, your aspirations for the future and so on. So I call those harbored fantasies. So only two things: past experiences and harbored fantasies. And the reason, and I call these cognitive brands, these brands are designed to work the way our brains do. And we know a lot more about how our brain works. So this is kind of the basic idea behind this whole thing. And here's, there is this product in the United States. There's a new company that's come out. These are all these startups that are coming out. So this is one that sells dog food. And what they've done is that, you know, they make sort of fresh, somewhat more fresh food for your pets. And then they ship it to you, and every week you're getting a supply of dog food for your dog. And just let's just take a example of this ad, because the thing that I want you to note about this particular commercial is that there's no discussion about there's no one telling you what the product is. There's no voiceover. You only hear the sounds, and the sounds that you hear are of happy dogs enjoying their food, which sort of creates certain sensations and feelings in your own mind. So let's take a look at this unusual ad where there's no one talking about what is on the ad. Let's hope this works. Play this. So I hope you were all able to see that. Okay. So I just want to confirm that you guys were able to see that and hear that ad.
Yes, sir.
Yes, of course.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. So the specific thing about that ad was that notice that there was no voiceover. The thing that was what you saw through your eyes was all these dogs just jumping up and down to get their meal. And then later on, you just hear them slurping. And those things wouldn't mean anything unless you had those memories in your head, right? So in your brain, the brain hears those things, it sees those pictures, and from that, it infers from its past experiences that this is a great and tasty food for my dog, and I should go buy it. And that's what I mean by that whole notion of the brain. In your brain, there are your memories which have those sensations, and we all have these memories. Like I grew up in India, so I can, when I see jalebis and so the sweets that I used to eat there, or the street food I used to eat there, I can just see a picture of that, and it brings all those memories back in my mind because it exists in my experiences. And that is what brands try to do. The brands want to go there and unlock those memories, those positive memories that you have in the past, and show those to you. Okay, so the new branding model is something here, and I'm going to go into a lot more detail about this model, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time there, but there are three parts to a brand. One part is what we call brand vibes, and this is completely new. This type of understanding didn't exist, but this is like, does this brand give me a good vibe? Do I have a good connection with this brand? The second thing is, then whatever the brand is saying, is it making sense to me? And then the third question is, will this brand, if I buy this brand, is it going to make me happier? There are these three questions, and they may appear like very simple question, but there is now a lot of science behind, a lot of behavioral science around each of these things, and every single word you're looking at on this slide is chosen very carefully to be consistent with that science. So I'm going to talk about the first part of the brand, which is the brand vibes. And brand vibes are specifically, there are two things to understand about brand vibes. You can make a connection. So this is about how do you make a connection with people. And if when we talk to people with each other, I'm hearing a little bit of noise on the screen, so maybe somebody needs to mute their microphone. But nonetheless, what you see is.
Tanu, can you unmute everybody? Mute everybody.
Is that going to mute me? Okay, so you can hear me, right?
Yes, sir, we can hear.
Okay, so in brand vibes, what you have is you're trying to form a connection with people and with the brand and the people. And it is very similar to when you meet a person, how you have social chemistry with people. And the way that you have chemistry can be either through empathy or through values. Empathy means that you can show to the other person that you understand how they're feeling. So I know how you feel is empathy. And values is when you say to the person, look, I understand you have certain values. I respect those values and I share those values. That is when the person feels a connection. And what happens, just as we have in interpersonal connections, when you have people that you feel connected to, that you feel you share a chemistry with, you're likely to believe everything else that they say. So that's why this is so important. This connection is so important, because once that connection is formed, then you're likely to believe everything else that the brand has to say. And this is a campaign that was launched by Dove, which is a soap from Unilever. And I'll tell you what was interesting about this campaign. In this campaign, they came out with the Dove soap, but what they realized was that when they went and talked to a lot of women, they felt like that the models that were being shown on TV, that were like these super thin models, which were perfect in every way, that they actually made women feel bad about their own bodies, because they would see people on television that that were very different from what they look like. And it sort of created that anxiety in them that, hey, am I supposed to be really looking like that? And gee, I don't have any chance of looking like that person. So what Dove did is that on their billboards, they started putting women like you see on this picture here, who were more normal women. Like, there are dark-skinned women, there are lighter-skinned women. You can see women that are more full-bodied versus women that are a little bit thinner, but more normal women is what they started putting on their billboards. Now, what was the interesting thing here? They didn't say anything about the soap. So if you want, traditionally, when you thought about branding, it was like, take your product and see how it is different from everybody else's product. And then you make your brand about those differences. That was very simply what branding has always been. But this was completely different, because when you looked at their billboards, there was no mention of the soap. They didn't say, hey, look at our soap, it cleans better, or it is creamier, or whatever. They didn't talk about that at all. They just showed these women and they showed their logo. And this campaign became so successful in the United States that Dove became one of the leading soaps. And then they took the same campaign. This is interesting because they took the same campaign to Brazil and to Asia and many other countries. And everywhere, Dove began to see tremendous gains in market share. So this is where you can see how, when you can connect to people by saying, look, we understand how these other women that are models can make you feel inadequate and so on, and make you feel bad about yourself. And we understand that, and therefore we're going to use more normal women. That made a special connection and made this soap so successful. I'm going to show you an ad from Tanishq, which is a brand in India which produces jewelry, which many of you might be familiar with from your trips home. And I'm going to show you how Tanishq followed the same strategy.
In the next minute, let's look at how this e-com brand is scaling to record 500K months, even after the iOS updates.
So one thing to note about this ad, I'm just pausing it for a second. Look at the women they've used in this ad. So these are working women. And what they wanted to hit on was that, they wanted to show normal women firstly. If you look at this woman, she's not those perfect models that are super thin and so on. This is more like a woman that you would encounter at home, more normal women. She's a little darker in skin, which is a dusky skin, which is different, because previously in India, you saw a lot of fair women, light-skinned women on the ads. And so she's a working woman. And the issues that working women, as you know, in India, women have had, I grew up in India, so I know this, which is that women have had a secondary position in society. That's changing for the better now, which is all great. But nonetheless, lots of times people feel like women are succeeding because they're women and not because they are good at what they do. And this ad sort of tapped into that. So let's just see that you'll see all kinds of working women. The Mia jewelry line is actually targeted for working women. So let's take a look.
To those who live in their little bubble that a girl can't juggle between the office and the home because they think it'll be such a struggle. Well, it's the last thing on my mind. And how some colleagues get a kick by shooting their mouth too quick.
Hey, I got promoted.
About how I'm getting ahead just because I'm a chick. It's the last thing on my mind.
So I'll stop the ad there, but you get the idea of how this works. And this is a very innovative ad. This is something totally new in branding, where people are ensuring that they're connecting with people at an empathetic level. So here, Tanishq, the brand, is showing to women that, look, we understand how you feel when people go and say, hey, you're succeeding because you're a chick or you're a woman, not because you're talented. And that is something that resonates deeply with women. And then they favor this brand because they feel like this brand understands them. The second way that you do brands with vibes is with sharing people's values. And again, I'll take an example from Indian ads, because many of these ads you guys are familiar with. But what you're saying, what the brand is saying to the consumer when they share values, is to say, we know you have certain values and we share in your values. And I think here what they picked up on was, this is Tata Tea. And Tata Tea, if you go back to 2007, was a distant number 3 or 4 in the market, right, from a market share perspective. And so they had to come out and break out from that whole pack. And they came out with these campaigns, which were not really talking about the tea as in, oh, this tea tastes good, or these are the best tea leaves you can get from Darjeeling or anything like that. But they were talking about how in India there are a lot of social injustices, how in India there are sort of things that people are sort of beginning to, people that, you know, a lot of things which are maybe corrupt or unjust, which people just accept, but they shouldn't. They can sort of they can sort of protest against these things, and they can have the values around changing the world. And in this particular instances, again, a few things to note. Tea is basically, actually, if you think about it, it is very hard to differentiate tea, because, you know, if you sell Darjeeling tea, well, it's all coming from the same slopes. So it's all commodity in that sense. It's all identical product. But in this ad, you see that by sharing values with consumers, they were able to make their brand differentiated. So let's take a look at this ad also, because it's also one of my favorites.
आइए सर, आइए सर।
नमस्कार।
अरे सर को नमस्कार करो।
नमस्कार। मैं आपका वोट मांगने आया हूँ।
अरे आइए ना सर, बैठिए। रामू काका, सर के लिए भी एक चाय। अच्छा सर, वैसे मतलब आपका
भंवर लाल भंडारी।
और क्वालिफिकेशन? चलिए छोड़िए, अपना वर्क एक्सपीरियंस बताइए।
25 साल से हैं इस लाइन में।
सर वर्क एक्सपीरियंस मतलब कंस्ट्रक्शन, वाटर वर्क्स, इंजीनियरिंग।
अच्छा, हमारा इंटरव्यू ले रहे हो क्या?
सर इतनी बड़ी जॉब के लिए अप्लाई किया आपने?
कौन सा जॉब?
देश को चलाने का जॉब सर। खैर चाय लीजिए।
हर सुबह सिर्फ उठो मत, टाटा टी।
Right, so that's a great ad for those of you who don't speak Hindi. I mean, basically the ad is about this ad is about you know, awakening people. So they were very clever in saying,
अब खाएंगे नहीं तो काम कैसे होगा?
आप बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हैं सर।
हाँ तो लाइए।
हाँ तो सर लीजिए।
Sorry about that. Let me just put this up. So this ad is Jago Re, which literally what they did is that they said the tea is not just for waking up, but they say, don't just wake up, awaken. And what they were talking about was, you know, go out and try to change the world. And they were trying to get the youth involved in voting. At that time in India, only 9% of the Indian youth were voting in elections. So they wanted to awaken people and say, look, don't just wake up with your tea, awaken, participate in elections and what have you, and be a part of the change that you want to see in there. So again, this is an example of a brand making a connection, not through its product attributes, but through values. So that is one part of how branding has changed, and it's called brand vibes. Now I'm going to get into a second piece of it. So this is a lot of research that some of this, I'm sure many of you are familiar with, but there is a guy by the name of Daniel Kahneman. He's a professor at Princeton. And he wrote this book called Thinking Fast and Slow, which is a highly recommended book. But it talked about how the brain works and how the brain processes information. And he said there are basically two ways in which the brain processes information. One is an instinctive piece, and the second is a deliberative piece. And the difference in these two is that instinctive is, you know, where the brain just processes information by virtue of all the learnings that it has in the past. So this is that part of the sensation of experiences that I was talking about earlier. So when somebody says to you, 2 + 2, you just know that from so many times in your experience, 2 + 2 is 4, so you don't have to think about it. Whereas someone says 17 × 24, that takes a little bit more time. Now, I know a lot of you guys are CAs, so that doesn't take you very much time at all, I'm sure. But nonetheless, for other people, it can take a lot of time to compute that. And that is where you have to think about it. So this part of the thinking is more where you do pros and cons, you do logical analysis, you do algorithms, you do theorems and so on. So it takes you a longer time. The interesting thing here is that what has been found by behavioral scientists is that most of the time, so this is like literally 90 to 95% of the time, actually all decisions are made on an instinctive basis, not on a deliberative basis. So we rarely do these, you know, when we're making decisions, we rarely do spreadsheets and so on to make decisions. Now, the reason for that is when you look at, and don't mistake this as that, hey, when the decision is complicated, then we do deliberative thinking, and when the decision is simple, then we do instinctive thinking. That may be true, but it's not always true. So when you think about even things, something like driving, Driving is an extremely complicated thing, but most of us do it instinctively. We don't have to think about it. You know, you're driving on the road, you see a car coming towards you at high speed, you take action without thinking. And that is a very complicated thing, which computers find it very hard to do that. So that is why it's taking so long to develop reliable, artificially intelligent, self-driving cars. But most humans, even the average ones, can drive a car pretty easily. So you can do some things which are very instinctively. You do a lot of things instinctively. You do most things instinctively and not deliberatively. So when you're a brand, you're asking the questions, you know, am I going to appeal to this person and have them make sense of what I'm saying, either instinctively or deliberatively? Most of the time, by the way, you want to go with the instinctive piece because that's easier, faster, and people will use that 95% of the time. They don't like doing spreadsheets and so on. So if they can avoid that, they're going to just go with the instinctive piece. So that is what this book is about. This Daniel Kahneman's book is about. In my book, it's one chapter which covers this whole aspect. What has been discovered is that as behavioral scientists have gone around and looked at, okay, what are these learnings that people have had over a lifetime? So it turns out that there are a lot of learnings which are common to many different societies, and they have been deeply studied and found. And so you might be familiar with some of these because, these behavioral sciences were first, outside of psychology, they were first applied in the area of economics. And that's where Daniel Kahneman, Richard Thaler, Robert Shiller, 3 people got Nobel Prizes for their work in economics and applying behavioral sciences to economics. What we have done here, what I've done here in my book is I've applied those same types of principles to actually marketing and branding. And some of these might be familiar to you because you might have seen how financial investments work. So you would have encountered biases around loss aversion bias, anchoring bias, IKEA effect. So these are certain rules that we develop over time. And then rather than doing a detailed analysis, we use these rules that we have over our life. So let's see how this works in branding. So anchoring bias is something where, you know, if someone gives you a particular anchor, so, you know, you're selling your home and or whatever, and you tell people, hey, I'm going to sell my home for $350,000, then whoever the buyer is, that 350,000 sort of becomes the anchor in their mind. And so you can use the same type of thing in the same type of logic in positioning your brand. And a lot of brands have done that. So DiGiorno is like a frozen pizza brand by Kraft in United States. And what they said is they came up with a campaign which says, it's not delivery, it's DiGiorno. And the idea was that, you know, obviously delivery pizza that you order fresh tastes much better than frozen pizza. But by anchoring your thoughts to it's not delivery, it's DiGiorno, they elevate themselves to being compared with delivery. They're saying we're almost like delivery pizza. And that makes them very different from all the other pizzas which are in the frozen pizza aisle. Same thing you see here with Avis rental car company, where they say we try harder. And you're saying, well, harder than what? They're talking about Hertz, which is the #1 company. And they say, we try harder than Hertz. So they're anchoring their performance in your mind indirectly to Hertz. Now you start comparing Avis to Hertz. And that puts them in a much more elevated position at the time that they did this campaign. And they've become now the #2 company. You see same thing with popcorn, Act 2 popcorn. They anchored themselves to the movie theater butter experience, right? So they said, hey, when you go to movies, you have such a great time, you enjoy that. And we're kind of like that same thing, just out of your microwave oven. So it anchored you to all those beautiful experiences you've had watching movies. And that made this brand #1 brand in India, in Mexico, and of course, in the United States. Loss aversion bias, as you know, is that this was done by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. What they found is that when you look at utilities that people have, the utilities for positive benefits versus negative benefits are not the same. An economist would say that the happiness that you feel out of gaining $100 should be about the same as the pain that you feel from losing $100, because these are just positive and negative utilities. What Kahneman and Tversky showed in their work, for which they won the Nobel Prize, in prospect theory, they showed that people actually feel losses much more acutely than equivalent amount of gains. So the pain of losing $100 for you is much higher than the happiness that you feel from that. So a lot of web brands have positioned themselves as something that you will lose. In the United States, pharma brands, so pharmaceutical companies are allowed to advertise their products on television, which is an exception, which is that nowhere else is that true. I think it's only true in New Zealand, but other than that, United States, you can do that. As a result, there are billions of dollars that are spent. And in this particular ad, which is about rheumatoid arthritis, you see that this ad is really saying that, look, if you don't treat your rheumatoid arthritis, your condition will continue to worsen over time, so that by the time you're old or you're older, you may not be able to even get in a wheelchair. You may not even be able to walk without a wheelchair. Now, you don't want to say that to somebody. That's kind of not a nice thing to say, that, hey, if you don't take my product, you're going to be in a wheelchair. So what they did very cleverly in this ad is they talk about this young girl, and they had another ad in which they had a young boy, in which they show how those boys are, those young kids are articulating their fear around their mother not being able to be a mother to them anymore. So let's take a look at this ad also. It's kind of a clever ad. And it's all around loss aversion.
My mom's pain from moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis was intense. I wondered if she could do the stuff she does for us, which is kinda a lot. And if that pain could mean something worse.
Joint pain could mean joint damage. Enbrel helps relieve joint pain and helps stop further damage. Enbrel may lower your ability to fight infections. Series sometimes.
So again, I won't play the whole ad, but you basically get the idea that what they're talking about here is this boy's fear that, hey, my mother will not be able to do all the things that she does for us. So that's a kind of a loss aversion bias. So rather than say, hey, if you take our pill, you'll be able to do all these other things, which would be a positive thing, this takes a slightly negative tone. But because negative tones are shown to be more acutely felt by people than positive tones. And this has been seen, by the way, you guys must know this in investments also, that people will hang on to their shares for way longer than they should, because they don't want to take up, so in a dropping market, they don't want to take the losses on them. So whereas they should objectively be selling those shares and not hanging on to them, they hang on to them and ride the market all the way down. And that's because of the loss aversion bias. Another common bias, which I won't necessarily harp on, is that we all believe that the simple answer is the better answer. When you're given choices and there are many different answers that could be there, you want to take the simple answer versus the more complicated answer. This is, by the way, not true. Many times you do need to take the more complicated answer because that is the better answer. But you know what we've learned in life is that if we always started analyzing every single problem that we had, then we would be in analysis paralysis, and we wouldn't be able to make any decisions. So people often just use this simplicity as a superior answer, even sometimes when it isn't. And so many brands have done that, where they've Staples is an office product company in the United States that does exactly that don't go to different stores and all of these things and look around and do spreadsheets on comparing your office supplies. Just go to Staples because we have everything you need, and it's the easy answer. This is a prepared foods grocery brands, which basically says, look, life is crazy. You're working all day and everything is crazy. You're driving through traffic and what have you. Why make mealtime be complicated? Just take one of our prepared meals and eat that. So it sort of takes away from trying to say, oh, our meals are healthier or not healthier and all this. It just says simplify your life. And in every culture, you have something or the other which is essentially around this idea, which is actually called the Occam's razor bias, belief that the simpler answer is better. In India, sometimes there is a phrase that's used which says Sida Sasta Sundar, just simple, cheap, and beautiful. It's something to that effect, but it's a way of simplifying everything and saying, hey, just go with our stuff because it is the easy answer. So this is where you're appealing. That all these instinctive rules are built into people's brains, And the question is, when you can understand what those beliefs are, through research, you have to do that. You have to understand what are those deep set beliefs that people have. And then if you can tie your brand to making sense with those beliefs, then the great news is that people will just take your brand without necessarily doing a lot more analysis around it. So, so that's the other part of branding, where you go with people by aligning with their beliefs. Now, what happens is that sometimes you will have a situation where your product is so different and so new that unless people actually analyze it and understand it, they're not going to accept it, because there's nothing in their past experience which helps them understand your product, because it's different. So in those situations where that adoption barrier is higher, you have to use system 2, which is the deliberative system of the brain. System 1 is, by the way, the instinctive part of the brain. System 2 is the process that is used to do more deliberation. And you will hear those terms very commonly now, system 1, system 2, in many different books that you will read. So in my book, I talk about 8 different ways in which you can use system 2. By the way, since you're accountants, many of you, I will mention that system 2, in one form or another, really ends up relating to the net present value equation, where you're sort of trying to say to the person that, look, either I'm going to amplify the value that you have from my product, or maybe I'm going to lower the risk. The value is essentially, the revenue minus the cost, if you will. The lower the risk, or provide you a reason to believe, provide you more proof points around why my product is better, or I will change the way that you think about the product and its value, and that will help you understand my brand better. So in this, the ideas that I give, of course, I don't need to explain net present value, and I don't do that in my book. I talk about how the behavioral perceptions around assessing values, assessing risk and reasons and context matter. And there are many different methods that are there, which I borrowed, by the way, from the science of the cognitive behavior therapy, where people are, where psychotherapists work with patients to change their mental thinking so that they can be in a more positive frame of mind. So I'll show you some examples here as well. So this is Patek Philippe. This is a very expensive watch, as we know, which easily costs $50,000, $100,000, or even more. Now, if you talk about it rationally, you might say, wait a minute, why am I paying $100,000 for a watch when I can just look at the time for free on my phone? And by the way, the time that the phone is going to tell, because it's coming through the air through very precise clocks, is going to be always more accurate than any mechanical watch that you buy. Despite that, you have Patek Philippe, which has managed to keep its brand and this campaign that I'm going to talk about for essentially the last 50 years. And that's why it's such a wonderful brand, that you can, position yourself in such a rapidly changing market and still be relevant. So what Patek Philippe did is that they said, hey, don't think about our watch as an expense. This is not really $100,000 you're sort of smoking away. This is actually an investment you're making. And what is this kind of investment? This is the kind of investment that you're making in your legacy. So when you buy a Patek Philippe, you're going to actually give it to the next generation. And you can see in these ads, and these are much older ads, and you can say they've been doing this for a long time now. So you can give your watch to your next generation. So their tagline now is, you never actually own a Patek Philippe. You merely look after it for the next generation. So this is where they frame the value differently, so that you suddenly don't view the watch as an expense. You view the watch as your legacy, as an investment. This is something that has been done by De Beers as very well as well. De Beers, as you know, is the top diamonds company in the world. And it turns out that if you really go back 50, 60 years, you would find that in the United States, the solitaire diamond was not really associated with engagements or weddings at all. Now it is like, you can't have a wedding, you can't be engaged to your wife or whoever, or your future wife, without actually giving her a diamond ring. That was all done by by De Beers by saying that, look, this diamond is not, it's not the fact, you know, it doesn't matter that it's not particularly rare in the world, but look, it is hard and it is lasts forever. And that is very much associated with how you want your relationships to be. And so you should be using a diamond to mark that one moment in your life. And that was kind of their early campaigns. And as you know, this has become the standard for any engagement and pretty much all around the world now. But then if you're De Beers and you already own 70–80% of the market, how do you grow the market? So they had to do reframing around the value there as well. And what they did is then they started with other campaigns. For example, there was a campaign that says, you know, shouldn't you have a ring which marks your past, your present, and your future? Of course, this is your past. If you've already been married, you had this ring, that was your past. But now how about celebrating your present and the future? So they made a 3-diamond ring, which of course uses more diamonds. Then after that, they said, well, it could be about this life. It could be about your future, your life after death and whatever. So this is forever and this is eternity. So this led to the eternity ring, which again expands the market. And now you're selling diamonds, which go all the way around. So, okay, now if you used up the entire left hand, now what do you do? So you say, well, there's another hand there. So they came out with another campaign, which was the right hand is about me, where you said that, hey, women, you are successful in your own right. You don't need to wait for your husband to buy you a ring. You can buy a ring right on your own. You make your own money and so on. So the right hand is about me is a celebration about women. And this is the way that they did that, where you have this campaign where this says, your right hand asks the questions, women of the world, raise your right hand. So this is a very clever way in which a company was able to reframe the market, to reframe its value, as well as to reframe how you should be thinking about, you know, what moments you celebrate in your life with using their diamonds. So I'm going to just let me just do a time check and with Sharmila and say, should I keep going or should we stop and take some questions? Sharmila, what do you think?
Sharmila, you are mute.
Sorry. Yeah. You can take some more time. Like 15–20 minutes is fine.
Okay. So let me do that. Let me just do the last part of branding as well, and then we can go to questions. So last part of the branding is really this around brand resolve. And so brand resolve is the connative energy that consumers need to get off the fence of indecision and indifference. So let's just think about how many things we've talked about so far. We talked about brand connections, which was the brand vibes piece, which is where you want to establish a special connection with your consumers so that they believe what you say. Then in the second part, we talked about brand sense, which you could do through an instinctive basis, or you could do it through a deliberative basis, where you help people understand why your brand makes sense. But you know, a lot of us have been in this situation where we look at something and everything makes sense about it, but then we still just don't go and buy that thing. We're sort of, you know, still thinking about it and so on. And so this whole idea around, there's a lot of research that is being done in psychology around motivation, what actually makes people, you know, get up and go and do things. And in this case, as brand marketers, we are very interested in what makes people go and actually buy a brand, even after it makes sense to them. And this is where this whole idea of happiness comes in. So if you look at the field of psychology, the one area where there's been the maximum amount of research done today is in the field of happiness. And the basic idea is that people pursue happiness from a natural basis. It's your innate desire. All of us are built in this way that we want to make ourselves happier than we actually are. And this constant pursuit of happiness is what drives us towards action. And I'm going to just do, you know, and just on that topic, I'm just going to do a little exercise here. I'm going to ask you guys, so each person that is on this program right now, I want you to just go and you know, on your palm with your finger, trace out a number between 1 and 10, which represents how happy you feel overall. Don't worry, you won't have to tell me your answer or anything like that. I just want you to open your palm and, you know, so 1 is that you're really depressed and you need to go and see somebody. 10 is you're perfectly happy. This is your perfect state of happiness. So write a number on your palm with your finger, which says how happy you are on a scale of 1 to 10, and be realistic, so, any number on 1 to 10. Okay. And now that you've done that, I'm going to tell you what that number most likely is. Most likely that number is 7. And the interesting thing is that when this research has been done all over the world, in most countries, unless you live in a country where it is, where even getting food and so on is very hard, most people in most cultures, whether you're in the US, whether you're in Bahrain, wherever you are, most people, when they're asked to rate their happiness, it's around that 7 or 8 mark. Most of you will have written that on your palm. And the reason is that we are always constantly pursuing happiness, but we are never going to get to perfect happiness on a sustained basis. And that is very good for brands because you keep coming back for more. So if I get a Ben & Jerry's ice cream, or in India you get an Amul ice cream and so on, and you're enjoying that ice cream, for a few moments you're going to be a perfect 10 because that ice cream tastes so good in your mouth, and that you're yelling, you're in heaven, and that's wonderful. But in a little while, the ice cream is gone, and then you have to do all, get back to work and do your errands around the house and what have you, and then you're back to a 7. So people generally descend to that level of 7. Interestingly enough, it has been found that even people that have lost their limbs in accidents, if you ask them that same question, how happy you are, after they've had those accidents and so on, maybe within 2 months or so on, they also answer that question with a 7. Can you imagine that? And so this is something that is wired into us. So there's a lot of research that has been done around, what is it that sort of drives us towards action, and to pursue happiness and to drive action. And there are really 3 things that have been found that work, and I call those brand resolve. One of those things is that most of us like to take actions which allow us to be autonomous, which is kind of that we have our own free will to be able to take the actions that we want to take on our own. So we want to always feel that we will do something that increases our autonomy and allows us to make our own decisions. This doesn't mean that you will be, that you can do anything that you want, but nonetheless, within the context of certain guardrails, that you have certain amount of freedom to do what you want to do. So that is called the desire for autonomy, and people will do things to pursue autonomy. The second thing is people will do things to sharpen their own skills, so enhance their own competence. So that's something that they do for their own self, to make their own capabilities, their own individual identity more salient. And then the third thing that we do is that we will take actions which are related to others, which is actions that we take to sort of increase our relationships with other people and fit in society better, maybe even do things that are good for the whole society and make the society better. So if you take those 3 things, autonomy, self, and others, those 3 things are things that really drive us to actually take action. So that becomes real. So that becomes important because we want to drive people to take action and buy brands. So this is an ad which is I'm going to show you just a little bit of. This is an ad that the United States Navy did. Now, as you might imagine, in the United States, you're not drafted into the Navy or the Army. You have to be a volunteer for it. And so the Navy has to go around and recruit people and get them to sign up. But they don't want to be in a situation where only, the people that are in the lower socioeconomic class or the disadvantaged economic classes are the people that are fighting the wars. They want to get people who are truly motivated to be in the Navy. And so what they did is that they shifted away. They did this whole television campaign in which they talked about that second aspect of brand resolve, which is how do you actually make yourself a better person, a more competent person with more skills. And so they said the Navy is a place where you can go, where you will become a different person from who you are, because you are going to be forged by the sea. The sea is going to do special things to you. And before and after the Navy, you're going to be a completely different person. So let's just take a quick look. We're just going to take a few seconds look of this ad. But it really is encouraging you to see how Navy is an opportunity for you to become something different. So I won't play the whole thing, but nonetheless, you get the idea that this is all around, telling people that when you go to the Navy, you're going to be forged by the sea, and you're going to be a very different person by the time you're done with the Navy. This ad, I don't know if National Car Rental is present in your part of the world, but this is one of the rental car companies. As you can imagine, rental car companies have this issue that when when you go to the airport, you're going to rent a car there, but when you go downstairs and when you're renting a car, there are like, 10 different companies that you can choose from. So all of them start looking alike. So what National did is a campaign around brand resolve, which was around that autonomy, the idea that, if you're a business traveler, and I used to travel a lot and I still travel a lot, where you're constantly on the plane and then, going to these different cities, and you sort of feel like, gee, there should be one part of my experience where I have everything in my control, which is often something that is missing when you're traveling, which is, flights are delayed and all kinds of things happen to you. So National made this whole campaign around this guy, Patrick, who sort of served as this spokesperson that was going around, and National was allowing him to do whatever he wanted to do. And it's a kind of a little bit of a funny ad. So let's watch this one as well.
I've been called a control freak. I like to think of myself as more of a control enthusiast. Perfect 177 degrees. And that's why this road warrior rents from National. I can bypass the counter and go straight to my car. And I don't have to talk to any humans unless I want to. And I don't. And National lets me choose any car on the aisle. Control. And so, what's the word? Sexy. Go National. Go like a pro.
So you can see that's a kind of a funny ad, but it's basically playing on that whole notion that with National, when you use National, the brand, you get so much autonomy, you can control everything that you want to. And that's something that, if you're a road warrior, this really, really appeals to you. And the market share of this brand after these ads went up by 5%. Okay, the final case study that I'll talk to is around MasterCard. And I'll just mention this one because you're all familiar with this, with the priceless campaign that you had. And again, what's some of the great things about brands that have done really well, and I call them epic brands, is that these campaigns have lasted over decades, and which is kind of a really hard thing to do. Otherwise brands are going around doing new campaigns every year. And really some of these campaigns have lasted decades because they were just so good, and they help these brands become leaders. And in this campaign, what you saw, and you've seen many versions of it, but essentially the idea was to say that, look, when you're using your MasterCard, don't think about the fact that, you just spent, $3 on buying a hot dog at the baseball game, and that you spent $40 on the ticket, or then you spend, another $20 on the souvenir t-shirt and so on. You don't think about all of that. Think about the fact that you went to the game with your son for the first time to the baseball game, and how priceless is that moment. So it was all allowed, so that's how those ads all ran, where they talked about how by using the MasterCard, you were creating priceless moments in your life, which were way more valuable to you in strengthening your relationships with others. So that's the third piece of brand resolve, as I mentioned, that in this case, you were using your MasterCard to strengthen your relationship, with your grandkids, with your wife, or whatever, by creating those special moments. So you know what, I'm going to stop here. I could keep going, but what I've done here is really scratch the surface in terms of what is in the book itself. Some of these examples are there, some of these examples are not there, because when I do these presentations, I like to put in things which you're not going to find in the book, but nonetheless, the ideas are the same. And but you will have much more time to reflect on those things when you read the book. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing here, and we can have a discussion and take any questions that you might have.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sandeep. That was really very engaging. It was like a lot of real life like incidents and case studies, and it's very interesting to know how this this behavioral aspect is actually used in branding also. So we have few questions. So like we have from our Mr. Mani Lakshmanamurthy. That what can you give us some examples where like some of the examples, like you have been in this industry for some, and you have been with some of the most successful brand building things. So some examples you have, like which are the examples of the worst brandings, and like if you have helped them to change that.
Yeah, and I think there are always brands that have many missteps. So I think some of the things that are more interesting to look at in that particular context are brands that were really good at something and then became, made some mistakes and became bad brands. And, Victoria's Secret, which is a women's underwear brand, if you will, underclothes brand, was one of those brands that had those missteps. So initially, this is a brand that sort of talked about, actually, in some ways, empowered women, because it basically said that, you have a right to be and show sexy, if you will. And Victoria's Secret went from, just being an underwear brand, which there were plenty, to being a brand that was about women's rights to be, to show themselves as their attractive bodies, and if you will. But what happened with that brand was, and it became the dominant brand in the United States. But what happened more recently, maybe in the last 5 years, was that the brand started becoming sort of the arbiter of who could be beautiful and not beautiful. So they said only these women can represent our brands. So in their advertising, they had lots of issues because they went against transgender women. They went against the lighter skin, darker skin, full-bodied versus not full-bodied women, and so on. And suddenly women said that, hey, no one made you the arbiter of who can be beautiful and not be beautiful. So as a result of that, that brand, which had sort of 10x'd in value, and I forget how much, it's sort of, if you bought their shares at their beginning, you would have 10x'd your value, or what have you. And then they went all the way down from there to back to where they were in the beginning. And now, right now, the brand is struggling. They're trying to recreate themselves. By the way, they've now put Priyanka Chopra on as one of their brand spokesperson to emphasize. Now Priyanka Chopra is a more full-bodied woman, so they put her on the ads. They put Megan Rapinoe, who is who's a soccer star. She also happens to be lesbian, but they put her on this. So now they're suddenly sort of reversing course and saying, okay, you know what? We're not going to judge who can be beautiful and who cannot be beautiful. So it's very important for you to sort of align with people's beliefs where they are. When you go against those beliefs, you can put your brand in a situation where it will be dropped by consumers.
Right, exactly. We have many commodities. For example, maybe any of our daily use commodities, like two rice, like if they are more or less same, this product. So how you differentiate in those, how you can, the brand building can help in those kind of commodities.
Yeah, and you saw the perfect example, as I mentioned to you at that time, which is Tata Tea. I mean, think about it. It's not like, Tata Tea can do something special to the tea itself. It's the same tea. It's coming from Darjeeling, right? Darjeeling tea is Darjeeling tea. Basmati rice is Basmati rice, right? And so those are commodities. And what they've been very clever about is understanding that it's not just about the product. It's about the other things that you put into the soul of the product. And in this case, they sort of stood behind the social justice idea and were able to make their product something more than just a commodity. And likewise, Dove soap, it was a great soap. I mean, it had nice creaminess and so on, but anybody can produce a soap which is nice and creamy. They were able to put a soul into those soaps by doing something that was different around those. Diamonds are a commodity in that sense, right? I mean, diamond is a diamond. You know, you can pretty much go on the web and price out a 2-carat diamond with you know, certain clarity and so on. But if you are Tanishq or you are so on, you're able to do these additional things which make those things special brands. The key is to really find, what are you going to do? Are you going to tap into people's values? Are you going to tap into their belief systems? Are you going to tap into their empathy? Having clarity around that leads you to develop that soul of the brand.
All right. So, like there are some advertisers, like, you know, Tanishq and all, they have like there was some controversy around that as well. So how to avoid that controversy? You know, something around the cultural or beliefs. So how far like what can be done on that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think you know, so for Tanishq, yeah, so there is it is a difficult area to go into. So when you do a brand which is around a certain connection that you form with consumers, it is difficult to then go away from that connection. Now, Tanishq had this campaign, I think the one that you're referring to, in which they showed a Hindu-Muslim wedding, and that sort of created a lot of issues with a certain right wing. And by the way, same things have happened in the United States, not around that particular issue, but on other issues, there have been, those things have happened. But the thing is that once you pick your values, once you say that these are my truths, these are my values, in general, you need to stick to them, and you cannot walk away from those things. So in the case of Tanishq, I'm not sure exactly what the reasoning was for walking away from that particular campaign, but one of the reasons might have been that there was violence associated with those events, and they might have said that, look, you know, we do stick to these values, but maybe we can make the point around these values without risking violence, and, you know, where people get hurt, and, you know, brands don't want to be in a situation where people are getting hurt because of what they're saying. But nonetheless, they've stayed true to their colors in terms of doing many other things which are controversial or you know, enlightening, if you will.
Yeah. Now we have one more question from our immediate past chairperson, C. Ajay Kumar. Sometimes the ad campaigners are so ridiculous that people remember it, although just to make fun about it. So is that really a strategy to make the brand noticeable? If so, what category does it fall into? Has it had no vibes, no sense, no resolve?
Well, so that's a great question, and I would say I will make 2 points about it. So one thing is true, which is that the way that our brain works, if you do something that is expected, then the brain just doesn't really notice it. It sort of glazes over it. You know, if you just kind of, you know, it might be great service. Someone is giving you great service, but if that's the service that you expect from them, then you're not going to notice it. What the brain does do is that it notices things that are unusual. You know, so if I'm always used to seeing a yellow school bus, if a yellow school bus goes by, I won't even notice it. But if a green color or a purple color school bus goes by, I'll suddenly say, hey, what the heck, what happened there? How come it's purple, right? So the brain is wired to notice things that are different. So there is value in your campaigns to doing things that are different. Nonetheless, I wouldn't go so far as to say that, you know, just do anything ridiculous and then, you know, that's going to be great for your brand, because what can happen is that people notice the ridiculous thing that you did, but they don't remember what brand it was. And that happens to all of us. Hey, you know, what happened? You know, do you remember that ad in which there was this monkey dancing and so on? And you say, yeah, that was a great ad. The monkey was dancing and so on, but then you don't remember which brand it was about. And so you have to make sure that when you do those things, that there is a connection to your particular brand in all of those pieces. So I mean, a recent ad, I think there was, I think was done by Amazon around Raksha Bandhan, right? In which they showed a brother and a sister, and the sister has, you know, make the kheer, but she put salt in it instead of sugar. but the brother just, eats that kheer and he doesn't, he just plays right perfectly and says, oh, how tasty it is, and so on and so on and so on. However, the problem with that ad, even though that ad is so beautiful and you notice the ad itself, is that it didn't have anything to do with Amazon. The Amazon label comes on at the end of it. So in those types of things, you can run the risk that people remember that story and they say, oh, that was that beautiful ad and I saw that thing. But then, oh, which company was it? Which is a little different from what you have to do. You have to make your brand a part of what is happening there in the main story.
Yeah, I guess that's it with the questions. So thank you so much. Thanks for this. It was really very engaging with so many interesting examples. So it has already created interest for me as well to go and read your book. So which will have many more examples. And I'm sure here all our members will also be definitely looking forward to that book. So thanks once again, Mr. Sandeep, for coming over, from taking out your time and sharing those thoughts with us. So thanks a lot once again. So nice to have you here.
Well,
now,
thank you very much for hosting me. This is an honor to be talking to the community of accountants and other people in Bahrain. If you do get a chance to read the book, please do go and post a review, good or bad, on Amazon, because those things these days are what people read.
Sure. I guess my members are listening to that, but we are already in the chat. We are getting really a lot of good reviews about the sessions already here. So I'm sure about that. So thanks. Thank you once again. It was our pleasure, our honor to host you here. Now, with that, we come to the end of our technical session. So now we have some more interesting sessions, like we have been starting with this new executive committee. So for that, I'll just hand over the control back to Santosh, our chairperson, C. Santosh, who can brief us briefly on that new initiatives, and then we can move forward. Over to you, Santosh.
I'm going to drop off. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Santosh, you're on mute. Just 2 minutes, sir, before dropping off. Sandeep ji. You dropped off? Okay, no issues. Okay. Anyway, it was a very nice session. Thank you very much, Sharmila, for managing it well. And what I was thinking is that anyway, this book, it is very impressive. I thought of giving this session, today's Kahoot, first winner will get a prize of his book copy as the first prize. Okay. And it will be a good gesture. Okay. And now moving on with a new session introduction for our events. The last year we focused on upskilling and reskilling under the leadership of Ajay Kumar. I'm sure that many of our members improved their skills and enriched a lot of knowledge, but that may be limited to a few people, may not necessarily everyone reached out. Then this year, we thought of initiating some more initiative in and around that concept. It is sharing is caring. If some of you, anybody learned some new IT skills or tools which can be shared with members, it will be a very good. If everybody going and trying to learn themselves will be a very challenging task. But if some of you have learned some skill, it will be a nice idea to share with others. Then it will be easy for others to catch up. Also, if they have some doubt around that particular skill, you can reach out to that person for the clarification. Okay, this is a new initiative under the under branding of sharing is caring. Okay, I would like Sharmila to introduce the person who is going to handle the session for the day.
Thank you, Santosh. That's really nice initiative. And for this initiative, we have our very skillful who will be teaching us this new skill, and very dynamic our current treasurer, CA Vivek Gupta. So I'll hand over now the control to CA Vivek Gupta to enlighten us on the new skills. Over to you, Vivek.
Thank you, Sharmila. Thank you, Santosh, for initiating such kind of theme. So let me just do a couple of logistics. Let me arrange it. Yes. So before we move, just one quick thing. See, the theme is about sharing is caring. So since we are going to care about you and ourselves, so we are not going to take much time. This will be a very brief session and very light session. And what we are going to do under this theme, we are going to share a few technical skills regarding some softwares, regarding some designing tools or IT tools, which will help us in upskilling ourselves. Because going forward, this is going to be the future. Nowadays, with the advent of pandemic, COVID-19, things have changed drastically. With just the skills, old skills which we used to have, be it accounting, auditing, or anything, it becomes difficult to thrive and strive. So with this, now we are going to open our session with the one basic skill, very basic, which is called Canva. So may I ask how many of us here have used Canva, or have they heard about the term Canva? Just quick show of hands, or just a message yes in the chat box should be enough. So we are getting responses, yes. So we got pretty much good responses, but that was not the case with me. When first Canva was introduced to me, I was like, what is this software? And it's going to be like Alokji said, it was no, we haven't heard about Canva, what is it? So my first question was how we are going to use it. It's so complicated. What's the purpose of it? But now I'll tell you what Canva is. It's a basic IT tool which will help us unleash the potential. Canva is a designing tool which helps you to design any kind of template, any kind of design just within matter of seconds. It's just a matter of seconds, nothing much. So what we do here, we exactly all the greetings you must be receiving throughout the year, all the pamphlets, all the screens. Now you are seeing the new XCOM is using a new design in the background. So everything is the output of Canva. So Canva is not just a simple tool. It changes your life. It helps you design your resume, your profile, your greetings, your brochures, templates, each and every kind of design which you want to prepare, even tickets also. If you are, let's say you are organizing an event at your home and you want to present, issue tickets for that or issue some invitation. So you can use Canva. And the interesting part is you can use the same tool on mobile plus web-based application as well. So on personal note, what I do, I create the design quickly on the website, and whenever I want to make any changes, I just log in into my mobile and make the changes in the app and download it. So it's quick and effective. How we do it, now I'll show you. I'll exactly take 5 minutes, that is 300 seconds. So within 300 seconds, you can learn how to use Canva, and you can use, it's free to use, but you can take always premium version if you want to use more features. How? We'll start now. We'll just design a small profile or cover page. So with that, simple login. You can note the time if you want to. And if you have any questions in between, just stop me and ask me. Feel free to do so. This is not a technical session or anything. We are just sharing the skills which we had so that you can share yours as well. I simply logged into Canva. Can anyone confirm if they can see my screen? Apart from the XCOM?
Yes, we can see.
Okay.
Visible.
Great. I got 3 confirmations within one voice. So that's good. So now this is Canva. Here you can see on the left side pane, you have all the options, current designs. And plus, if anyone else is creating a design at their own end, they want to share their design, they can do that also through Canva, shared design. Branding also you can do. You can create a kit for your branding, content you can plan. You can create a team of people who can edit. Even if they don't have Canva, it's like Google Drive link. I can simply share the link with them and they can edit whatever they want. All the folders, that's it, simple. Now what I'll do, I'll go create a design. We are more familiar with A4 size options. Correct me if I'm wrong. So let's choose A4. A4 document size. These all are document size which we have. If you want to have a look, I'll just enlarge my screen. Presentation, flyer, Instagram post, flyer, logos, business card, banner, wallpaper, card, video, mailing labels, so many, n number of options you have. Ticket, tag, worksheet, reports, photo collage, invoice as well you can print through Canva. So there are so many options. Now, since we have selected day 4, let's do one thing. Let's create a profile. I'll simply try to find a template for profile itself so that I don't have to do much. guess I found a profile already. Or I can use another one if I want to. Let's resume. Let's keep it blank only in that case, because I'm not able to find any suitable template. Now, what I was doing, I'll tell you. See on the left side pane, when you log in into Canva, you can see there are options, templates, elements, uploads, photos, text, style, background. That's all. It's simple. You have all other options if you want to, but from these options, you can simply create a template. You can choose a background. You can put text in it. You can add your themes, backgrounds, designs, and that's it. It's all done within a matter of seconds. And all the beautiful greetings which you are seeing on your WhatsApp right now from chairman's number, it's all done through Canva. This is a trade secret which I'm telling you. So it's all done through Canva and it takes just few minutes. Now, since we have selected the design, I want to add a theme. What I'll do, I'll add a background. Let's choose blue. If you can see, now I just chose a background because I was not able to find a suitable template. I chose them transparent in the screen. There's a trick about designing. Whenever you enter a design, always remember, it's your subconscious mind also which keep tracks of the things. So even if you don't notice, your subconscious mind will notice, okay, there's something different in the background. My spelling is not good. I hope I'm not boring you guys. Can anyone confirm it isn't that boring as it seems like?
Vivek, you want me to tell the truth or?
Okay, now I get the point. So it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting since Ajay responded.
So that's why I didn't get much confirmation.
See, we have to find a suitable candidate. I think this person looks good. We'll select his image as a background.
You're creating for a marriage profile?
Yes, Ajay, actually unleashing the potential. Elements.
Nisha is asking, is this the paid version which you are using? Yes, Nisha.
Oh, I think I missed it. Yes, this is the paid version, but see all the options which I'm using right now, this is not paid. All these options which I'm using are free.
I think the best part about the paid version is there are a lot of pictures in the photo session which can be used.
Actually, that is the biggest advantage. You just get more templates and more options. Otherwise, on a personal note, whenever I use it, I use the free version only for myself. So it's pretty effective also. And for your information, the slide which I presented in the beginning, it was also done through Canva, and that too when we were taking questions at that point of time only. Now it may look like that there is something missing. It's just a simple design I can create anywhere, anytime. But the thing is, if you see, the only missing part here is just some graphics. which looks good. Now, if you can simply see, we have added these design here. I can simply copy and write all I want. Present. So now,
can write single ready to mingle.
Come again?
Can write single ready to mingle.
If you see this profile, it looks for us, since we have seen how it is being developed, that's why it looks like, okay, this can be done and more additional things could have been done. But to be honest, if this design, the two screens which you are seeing, if design is presented to anyone, they will not be able to tell that how much time it took. They'll think, because it's you who knows how much effort you have put. But the designing is simply the intelligence made visible. So it's up to you, all the creativity. All the tools are here, everything is there. You just need to put it into action. That's it. So this was just a quick presentation of the tools and the options which we can use. Now let's stop it here. And in case if anyone has any questions, if they are interested to use Canva, if they want to know how they can use it more, I'll definitely be available, and any of our team members are available, because as XCOM, this has been our target to reskill ourselves so that we can share our skills with you also while we are learning from you. So if any one of you have any question, you can come back to me at later stage after this session, and I'll be happy to assist in whatever manner I can do. That's all. I'll stop sharing here. So back to you, Sharmila.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you, CA Vivek. That was really very, very interesting. So there is a glitch point here now. We have all been using Canva, XCOM for preparing the flyers. So with our going forward with our one of the objective of inclusiveness, we will be coming to the members now to prepare the flyers going forward. So that's the hint in this this session. So thank you, Vivek, for that. Thanks a lot. So now we come towards almost towards the end of our session. And it's time now to express our gratitude to all those who have made this event success. So I would like to actually thank Mr. Dhafar. I guess he's not here, Ambassador from BE's Bahrain, for gracing this event. He has been here with us. He has already left now, but we also wholeheartedly thank our speaker for a very interesting and engaging session. Again, a big thanks to our chairperson, C.A. Santosh, and all the executive committee members for their untiring efforts and for having this event being seamlessly organized. And last but not the least, all the participants who have joined with all the great enthusiasm. So thanks once again to all of you. And now I guess we are coming to another interesting session, our Kahoot quiz. So I guess all of us are ready with that. So I'll hand over the session now to our quiz master, CA Stanu Murthy, to take it forward. Over to you, Stanu.
Thanks, Sharmila. Good evening, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed the session. Just for a moment, and in a moment's time, we will be having the Kahoot quiz starting. All right. I hope you all can see my screen. My screen is visible, I hope.
Yes, Stanu, it's visible.
Just a moment. So we'll have the game pen ready, and you all can start logging in with your name and your membership ID, please. The ID for today's session is 2755751. All right, so we have the first two participants. Oh, we see a lot of them joining in. Very good.
नहीं ब्रांडिंग का तो और पिछला जो
आपका म्यूट
मैंने कभी था, मैंने पढ़ा भी नहीं, मालूम नहीं क्या
पुराना जी आपका म्यूट पे नहीं है.
You can mute You'll be able to
No, I am sharing my screen.
I did that. I did that.
We have 50 odd participants. Only 22 have joined, right?
Membership number 231950. Membership number. Can you just put in your name as well? 231950.
I've removed that person. Please log in again with your name as well.
Okay, please.
We have 55 odd participants. Only 21 have registered. People do not want to get the prizes, I guess. They don't want the book. Free mein mil raha hai yaar, le lo. Alok, I request you to please.
Alok, can you put your membership number as well, Alok ji?
Vinod also, please. Vinod, I would request you to please put in your number. Yeah, thank you. Alok ji, aap bhi. Thank you very much. We'll wait for another 1 minute and then we'll start. So anybody who wants to join, please join in. Ajay is there, okay. XCOM can also participate, huh? Because they do not know the questions. They can also join in and be a lucky winner. I guess
we can start. We can start.
Yeah.
All right. All the best participants. Here goes the first question. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. 15 of you have given the right answer. Ajay leads the leaderboard. Paying attention, huh? All right, so we go to the second question. Name of Mr. Sandeep Dayal's book is called Right Between the Ears, Right Between the Eyes, Between the Ears, Between the Eyes. Four, 3, 2, 1. It's right between the ears. Some of you, I intentionally had the option. All right, so let's see who's on the leaderboard. So there's some change. Arun has gone up. Nisha is still there. Oh, Nisha has come up as well. Joby has come up. Ajay leading with Ruana in the 5th position. First ad shown on the video was organic food, dog food, fast food, genetically modified food. Most of you have given the right answer. Dog food was the answer. Let's see. Arunava has come up the leaderboard. Others on to their positions. The Tanishq ad was about the collection. What was the name of the collection? Was it Nusha, Virasat, Mia, or Ahalya? What was the name of the collection which was shown in the video ad by Sandeep Dayal ji? Right answer, Mia. Oh, there was a slight change in position. I think they would have given the answer a bit quicker. Well, the next question, the first area of Mr. Sandeep Dayal's book is on brand wipes, brand sense 1, brand sense 2, or brand resolve. Fastest fingers first, they get more points, chance to go up the leaderboard. And wipes the right answer. By the look of it, Ajay does not want to give away the prize. All right. Belief that the simple answer is better refers to which point. Was it the anchoring bias, loss aversion bias, Occam's razor's bias effect, or the choice supportive bias? Occam's razor. The name itself, all others were biased. This was the one which had the word effect. So should have identified. I hope. Oh, no change in the positions. Great. So of the 5, the leaderboard has them. All right. This is a double point multi question. So you'll have to select as many right answers you feel appropriate, and then you'll have to click the submit button. So brand sense 2 talks about amplifying the value, lowering the risk, provide reasons to believe, or changing the context. One or more can be the right answer. You'll have to select as many as you feel appropriate and then hit the submit button. Well, the right answer is all 4 of them. So let's see who gets how many. This should change some positions. All right, so there's a change. Naresh has entered. All right, next question. Again, a multi-select and again a double point. So you can score and come up the leaderboard. The reframing method was explained using the example of Patek Philippe, Tanishq, Rolex, or De Beers. Again, you'll have to select one or more options and click the submit button for your answer to be registered. Well, it is Patek Philippe and De Beers. And let's see if there's a change in position. Ajay has come back, the lead. The number depicting happiness amongst people in average. What was the number that was Mr. Sandeep Dayal during the course of the presentation? He asked us to do an example showing our hands. Was the number 5, 6, 7, or 8? Seven was the right answer. That was the number in average across people across the globe. And we'll see who's on the leaderboard. Arun has moved up a position. Raymond has gone down to 5th position. The tagline used by US Navy ad was "Forged by the Sea." True or false?
Yeah. Okay. Any improvement? Finally.
I guess speakers on unmute. Mute yourself. The right answer, yes, it was Forged by the Sea. That's a true answer. We come to the end of the Kahoot quiz. We are at the podium. On 3rd position, we have Rowana. Congratulations, Rowana, getting 7 out of the 10 right answers. 2nd position is Nisha with 8. And finally, on the leaderboard, we have Ajay, our past chairperson. He's going to give the book to me as a free gift because I gave him the answers ahead of time, and that's why he got 9 out of 10. So with that, we come to the conclusion of this session of the Kahoot quiz. I hope you all enjoyed today's evening session. Back to you, Sharmila.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Santosh. That was really very, very tricky questions, so I couldn't participate in the MC. So thanks for conducting that quiz. And with this, we are coming towards the end of our session. And so bye-bye. Have a good weekend, have a good week ahead, and see you till the next session. Bye-bye.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Please.